Hello and welcome. We're talking about HEG Limited today, and you've got that NCLT approval which has come through, which is critical in terms of the step. And you've got a decent move over the last 3 months on the stock price as well. And that's reflecting the value unlocking which is likely to play out. 19% higher on HEG. By the way, there's a demerger underway in terms of the business. It's a long-awaited demerger of the new age businesses, battery and energy storage and the like. We'll talk about that and more. And we'll obviously have the management. We'll have Riju Jhunjhunwala who will come in and give us that perspective. Let me first start off though with regard to the background. And HEG was incorporated in 1977, so dates back since quite a while. The head office registered is in Noida, UP, and the main plant though is in Madhya Pradesh near Bhopal. And the market capitalization is roughly 13,500 crore. The industry it caters to is carbon and graphite materials and industrial inputs with regard to those. And the business is the graphites electrodes business, which is the primary business. And then there are a bunch of new age businesses, anodes, BESS and the like, which they are venturing into, which is likely to get hived off into a separate subsidiary. Really, that entire process is underway. First off, let's understand what electrodes are, and basically they're just good conductors of electricity and heat through electricity. But what HEG does in particular, so that's what an electrode is typically made from needle coke, which is a petroleum-based raw material. Essential to know why, because you've seen the spike in crude, and that conversation that we'll have with the management will cover some part of this as to what it does. And every time needle coke prices go up, you'll see margins getting hurt, and that's the other piece we will speak about. It's when that raw material is baked at very high temperatures and graphicized, that's when you'll find graphite electrodes being manufactured, and they're typically used in electric arc furnaces or EAFs. Typically, that's one of the primary use cases for all of HEG's graphite electrode production. It's largely used in electric arc furnaces and supplied to the steel industry across the world, not just in India. I'm just going to quickly zoom into the two main grades of graphite electrodes that are there typically. One is ultra high power, which is UHP. This is the premium high margin grade product. And then there's high power HP, which is a lower grade product. And of course, graphite manufactures both of those. The UHP grade is generally used in modern high capacity furnaces, and a bulk of the production happens there, but they also supply HP. Electrodes are essential. They're essential and recurring parts of steel plants, which are required to be replaced in a timely fashion. So when the steel cycle plays out, you see good demand for graphite electrodes. There's no real substitute per se for a product like this, and it's extremely commoditized as well. So it's very, very driven by market prices across the world, and it's linked to that. So not only the raw material price linkage global, it's also the finished product price which is linked globally. The story is that you've largely seen a cash generating business, which is the graphite electrode business of HEG, and that is now going to fund new age bets which HEG is making, and a lot of those will be divested into, or rather a lot of those will be demerged and value unlocked, and that's the entire story which we are currently tracking and speaking about. In terms of products, you'll see some of those on your screen. UHP graphite electrodes, HP graphite electrodes, we've spoken about that. Carbon byproducts, fines and recarburizers. You also have synthetic graphite anode material, which is what they make. Graphene derivatives is the other thing that they make. Even though they're relatively smaller components of the larger business, some of these are even pre-revenue, of course, for the moment. They're newer age businesses. Battery energy storage systems is clearly a pre-revenue, and they're doing it through a JV, which they have. They own 74% of that. And then there's Solar Plus BESS, which is for IPP related, kind of the EPC contracts. Let's talk about the business model. You buy needle coke, and this is largely bought or imported from places outside India. Thereafter, it's processed into graphite electrodes at their plant in Madhya Pradesh, And then you have electrodes which are sold to steel makers running electric arc furnaces. That's broadly it. You have long-term contracts that these steel makers enter with HEG, but the contracts have a moving price, and that price moves based on market prices in the global marketplace. So while you have your fixed price contracts, but there is a peer comparison, and the flow through happens with a bit of a lag in terms of the way in which prices move. In terms of manufacturing capacity, they are currently at 100,000 tons a year. Capacity is set to be expanded to 115,000 tons by 2028. The capacity utilization is generally steady, or rather it does fluctuate based on steel demand, but for the moment has been steady, and it's currently also above 90%, at least at this point in time. The sales are largely international, so largely export. It's very, very diversified. Over 30 countries is what they sell to. And 70% of the sales are exports, around 30% is domestic. This keeps fluctuating depending on demand and where the need is. The US is roughly 10% of the business, and this is important because there is a CVD coming in, a proposal for countervailing duty coming in from the US, which is a sort of anti-dumping duty from the US, which is expected to impact HEG, but they have a very well diversified customer base, and therefore the management suggests that there will be a low impact, but we will quiz management on how they plan to diversify. Competition, you'll see a slew of competitor names coming on your screen in just a minute, but the main domestic rival is Graphite India. And so that is one, that's the direct Indian competitor. Graphite is one of those unique players which actually owns or backward integrated the raw materials as well. So that is Graphite, which is one of those competitors which you want to keep your eye out on, because they've backward integrated to the needle coke as well. That's something that they produce internally. But outside of that, pretty much everyone sources their needle coke externally for a better part. Let's talk about the P&L, and you'll see some choppiness here, and that is understandable just given the nature of the business, both on the raw material side as well as on the finished product side pricing. So you'll see some choppiness there. The 3-year revenue CAGR, not really impressive, but essentially this is one volume driven and two price driven. So one, you've got your pricing tied to the global steel demand. That's one of the issues which impacts revenue or keeps the choppiness there. And it moves, the revenue and the realizations move with graphite electrode price moves, and as the price resets, it obviously makes an impact on the top line. The export mix versus the domestic mix is the other thing that affects the top line as well. And then there's Chinese oversupply. Whenever there is that, you likely see a problem on the top line. Also the steel cycle. If currently you've got a very strong steel cycle playing out, as and when that turns, and if at all it were to turn even globally, you will start to see an impact on HEG in terms of the top line number. Now let's talk about margins, and when you'll see the margins, you'll see, or rather let's look at the EBITDA. Yes please, there you go, and you'll see that choppiness, and that's because of the raw material prices hitting the EBITDA number as well, and that's margin trajectory for you. I'll come to PAT in just a minute, but that's the margin trajectory, and in terms of the margin trajectory, it's all raw material prices, right? So needle coke cost swings impact the margins. You then have capacity utilization changes which also impact margins. Fixed cost absorption starts getting impacted if at all capacity utilization dips, so that's another concern. And you know, you will see flip-flops in a single quarter. It's very volatile, and therefore let's pull out the profitability as well, and you'll see that while the annual numbers may not be as choppy, but there you go, you see that choppiness, but may not be as choppy, but quarterly you will surely see more choppiness than this as well. Let's look at the balance sheet now, and the balance sheet looks okay because on a standalone basis, the graphite electrode business has no debt. They've some of the debt which is sitting in the books, it's around 4,800 crore in terms of book value, and trades at around 3 times book. But on the debt side, again, some of the debt is because of the captive power plants that they've bought, and that ensures that there's steady electricity supply, because there's a because that is one of the big captive needs of the company. And you've got a decent cash balance also sitting there at 250 odd crore. Also, some of the new age businesses are also absorbing some amount of debt. So that's the other thing. But on a standalone basis, the graphite electrode business is completely debt free. So there's no debt there. Let's talk about the cash flow now. And there is a decent conversion of EBITDA to cash flow. Of course, there is some lead and lag, which you will see in a year or so. But broadly, you're seeing a decent conversion here. In terms of ROCE numbers, well, this has been less than impressive. You'll see ROCE is below 15% for better part of the last 5 years. And as the cycle changes, these numbers change as well. But below 15% is slightly subpar, and therefore we've given this a neutral. Let's talk about shareholding pattern now, 56%. And I mean, ROCE is also industry specific. Just wanted to kind of caveat that. When you're looking at promoter holding, it's at 56%. So healthy promoter holding, no concerns. We've given this a thumbs up. 5 buy calls, no holds, no sells, just a 3% upside. And therefore we're cautious. We've given it neutral. And valuations currently trades at 30 times 1 year forward. The 5-year average is 15 times. Can be a lot of choppiness on this, mind you, because what this also tracks is the future 1 year forward EPS would obviously get built into this. But when you're looking at the 5-year average also, the choppiness on the EPS kind of is visible in the 5-year range that you're seeing. And the 5-year average also tracks that range. So kind of gives you a sense as to how to look at this. The Graphite India PE multiple is far higher. It trades at 60 times. Of course, does a slightly differentiated set of products as well, and also does and has a higher promoter holding there. And maybe a couple of those factors impact the multiple that it has. But let me slip into a very short break. On the other side, as always, we'll bring in the management, speak with Riju Junjunwala, who will join us. He's the Vice Chairman at HEG. We'll come to you in just a minute, Riju. Hold on, and we'll quiz him on the business.
In association with the all-new Yono, power to every Indian.
बेस्ट हरा बोर्ड दिखाना
सबसे डिपेंडेबल सेंचुरी HDF प्रीमियम प्लस
ट्रायल लूंगा
श्योर
वाटर रेजिस्टेंट
है
स्ट्रॉन्ग
है हाई डेंसिटी वुड फाइबर स्ट्रक्चर एडवांस जर्मन एडहेसिव बॉन्डिंग सॉलिड डिफेंस
ट्रायल में पास
सेंचुरी के 40 सालों का भरोसा हरे बोर्ड का असली बॉस सेंचुरी HDF प्रीमियम प्लस
एक बिजनेसमैन का सिर बस एक आदमी के सामने झुकता है, लोन मैनेजर।
सर, ये मुथूट फिनकॉर्प है। यहाँ लोन के लिए शाहरुख के चाम की जरूरत नहीं है।
ऐसे ही डायलॉग करवा रहा है तुझे। लोन अप्रूव्ड। मुथूट फिनकॉर्प, बुक योर गोल्ड लोन टुडे।
AU करंट अकाउंट के साथ मिलता है फ्री UPI QR ओवरड्राफ्ट फैसिलिटी और एक ही ऐप से बैंक के सारे काम। AU
सोच बदलो और बैंक भी।
क्या सोचा था और क्या हो गया। देखिए, इसके लिए वेरिफिकेशन नहीं है, पर आपके इन्वेस्टमेंट्स की पेमेंट्स के लिए है।
क्या
आ गया सेबी चेक टूल, जो दे पेमेंट से पहले चेक करने का मौका। डिटेल्स वेरीफाइड है या धोखा, तो पेमेंट तब करो जब सेबी चेक करो।
अकाउंट ब्लॉक मत कीजिए, मैं अभी OTP देता हूँ। शंकर, थोड़ा ध्यान से।
सर, आप थोड़ा ध्यान से। बैंक कभी OTP, पिन या आपकी पर्सनल जानकारी नहीं मांगता। ये फ्रॉड है, फ्रॉड।
RBI कहता है OTP या पिन के लिए कॉल या मैसेज आए तो थोड़ा ध्यान से।
ब्रो,
इन्वेस्टिंग के लिए इंटेलिजेंट बनना है तो
स्टॉक ट्यूटोरियल्स, मार्केट ट्रेनिंग, इन्फ्लुएंसर एडवाइस, एजुकेशनल वीडियोस।
ब्रो, इन्वेस्टिंग के लिए तेरा ऐप इंटेलिजेंट होना चाहिए। ट्रेडिंग सिग्नल, स्मार्ट डिस्कवरी, सिक्योर एग्जिट, आस्क एंजल।
Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
What happens when the game changes? You keep moving. You keep slaying. Keep celebrating. And if they keep talking,
Keep them talking.
because no matter how far you've come, you keep walking.
Gaja Alternative Asset Management Limited, a well-established and independent alternative asset management company to India-focused funds. now proposes to make an initial public offering of equity shares of face value of 5 rupees each. The 100% book-built offer being offered in a price band of 152 rupees to 160 rupees per equity share. Opens on August 19th, 2026 and closes on August 21st, 2026. For risk factors and details, refer to the red herring prospectus.
Welcome back, and we're joined by Riju Jhunjhunwala. He's Vice Chairman at HEG, and we're speaking about HEG. Riju, I'll come to the demerger first off, just trying to get a sense of, now you've got better clarity. What should the timelines be? What are you aspiring for? How quickly can you execute?
So thanks for this, and we've got the formal approval for the demerger as of yesterday, and we'll have our board meeting, I think, in the official demerger process should be completed by around the first week of September, where you have the new company which will be listed, and the graphite business will effectively move out of it, and the graphite business would relist again after 45 days, around October.
Okay, so by October you'll have your 1:1. You'll have two listed companies, and shareholders of your current company will have one share in the new as well as the existing, right? That's the way to think of it.
That's correct.
Okay, excellent. Let's talk about the business of electrodes first, and more importantly, let's try and understand as to how pricing is shaping up. In your Q1 FY27 call, you suggested that pricing till September likely, or maybe even some part of October, is already built in. It's going to be post-October that you start to see price hikes. How likely is that to come through? How confident are you of that? Let's start with that, and how much?
So we are quite confident on that because, you know, the larger companies that you showed before, the global companies, Graphite, Resonac, etc., they all have already announced a price hike of between $1,000 to $1,200 per ton. And for them, really, it's a question of survival. I mean, we have decent margins even in the worst of times, but these companies need to really, I mean, in order to cover for their additional costs, they need the price hike. And I think we are quite confident that we are already seeing that September onwards, whatever booking we are doing, that's coming at an increased price range. So yes, I mean, the needle coke prices will also move accordingly, but the delta that we'll have on the needle coke versus the selling price would be far higher in our case. So that is already happening, the price hike as you're talking.
And how have coke prices moved, if you can give us a perspective? Because Q4 as well as Q1 has been very tricky from a crude perspective.
So really, I mean, this is a byproduct, it's a 2% byproduct of a very specific kind of crude oil. And the only specific application for this particular raw material is graphite electrodes, and now going into graphite anode materials for lithium-ion batteries. So we've not seen too much in the last 4 or 5 months. There has been no price increase. Now they have started taking some price increases, which will start getting effective for us September, October onwards, which is why we are saying that September, October onwards, we'll start to increase our prices also in order to cover up for that.
Will there at all be an overlap where there'll be a lag, or you don't estimate there to be a lag?
No, there should not be a significant overlap. And, you know, earlier you were commenting on the raw material prices really hitting the margin. But historically, if you see a 10-year gap, whenever there has been a kind of a shortage of raw material or the raw material prices have been going up, all the graphite companies have historically done much better because of that. Because really, I mean, your ability to pass on the raw material increase over here is quite good.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that makes sense. It's just that it happens with a lag, and that's where probably there's some choppiness in the numbers, right? That's how you think of the business, right?
There could be one or 2 months kind of overlap sometimes. And, you know, sometimes you have a position where the graphite prices move before, and that's when the needle coke suppliers decide to increase prices. So, you know, it can be the other way around also at times.
No,
absolutely.
But yes, absolutely.
I think what we have seen is 2 years of a very low kind of a cycle in terms of the previous 2 years. But I mean, the good part is, I mean, we believe that we are the lowest cost producers of graphite electrode in the world and not just in India. So because of that, I mean, we've still been healthy in terms of our cash generation balance sheet. And now as this cycle starts to turn, I hope, we can see better times ahead.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I'm trying to get to how should one look at the current cycle, right? So you believe that the price hikes are sustainable all through the year? Is this just temporary spikes that you're seeing? I know you mentioned that these price hikes which have been undertaken by global competitors look like as if they're likely to sustain. Sustain for how long? And just trying to gauge as to how confident you are of that sustaining.
So you're talking about a minimum of a year, because around when you in this particular business, the steel companies who are buying graphite from us, they typically like to lock in their prices for around 6 to 8 months. So any kind of price hikes you take at any point in time, they hold true for at least a year or so. And then depending on the demand supply scenario, you're seeing the way, electric arc furnaces growing all over the world, especially in the US and in Europe and in the Middle East also. And because HEG, we are already exporting 70% of our business to 39 different countries. I think there's a very good scope for a big, kind of pie in the next few years. Then there's no real graphite capacity apart from us, which has been added in the last 20 years. So
yeah, and then you're adding another 15,000, right? And then you're adding another 15,000 tons.
Yes, we just completed our 20,000 ton expansion, and now we are operating already at around 95%, and we'll go to around 115,000 tons in around 15 months from today. 15
months from today. Oh, okay. So that's end of calendar year 27. My understanding was it was early 2028, but you believe that you'll actually prepone that timeline?
Maybe like a 3-month kind of a plus or minus kind of thing.
Understood. Sounds more like a minus review, so that's positive, of course. Sounding positive. If I were to also try and push you on margins, right? Your standalone margins have come in at maybe 26% for Q1, if I'm not wrong. So you believe that kind of margin threshold is now sustainable all through the year, and because you have a 1-year visibility, is that kind of locked in, at least broadly, in terms of how one looks at it?
I can't give a forward-looking specific guidance, but I'm quite sure we'll be able to do better than this for the year as a whole.
Okay, better than this, because price hikes will translate, and you don't think needle coke prices will go up as much. Okay.
Needle coke prices will go up, but we'll be able to pass it on. The price hike will be
correct. More than pass it on. I hear you. I'm trying to understand now on the new age side of things, because that's where the massive amount of interest is, right? Any thresholds that you start looking at in terms of how quickly top line evolves, because you'll start to have manufacturing set up there as well. How should one see the demerged entity evolve in terms of their numbers, say FY27, FY28?
So I'll tell you, in the demerged entity, we are looking at two different businesses. One is the major plant capex that we are doing is putting up a 20,000 ton graphite anode plant. This is basically fine graphite powder, which will go into the anode side of a lithium-ion battery cell. And not too many companies have the ability to produce this, because the technology for this, which is graphitizing the carbon into graphite, that really helps us because of HEG. And this plant would be operational by April of next year, April 2027. And it would produce around 20,000 tons of anode in its first phase. And then we look at how to grow that particular business. To start with over there, again, I think in the first year, we should be able to do a healthy 50% kind of a capacity utilization, because the selling cycle over there is very, very different to graphite electrodes. Here you have the top tier auto OEMs, or you have the cell manufacturers who are your buyers. So the selling cycle to them itself is a 12 to 18 month kind of thing, wherein you have various kinds of, your product. They have to give your product acceptance based on a lot of sampling, which has already happened. So we'll be the first producer of anode powder in India for lithium-ion batteries. And in the second part of the business is our hydroelectric plant, which we are putting in the demerged entity also. These are 300 megawatts of hydroelectric run-of-the-river plants, giving a healthy kind of EBITDA of existing EBITDA of around 350 crores. So that will come into the new company from year one itself.
And how much, therefore, debt stays on the current console books and how much of it moves? HEG's current business will therefore be totally debt-free, right? If I've understood this right.
Yes, HEG current business will, the graphite business will remain completely debt-free. And the new company, I mean, we are looking at kind of a 60-40 kind of a debt equity ratio to begin with. We already have 1,500 crores of equity and another 500 crores of surplus to put in this particular plant. Apart from this, we are, looking at very advanced active materials like graphene, etc. A lot of work which has been happening for the last 2 years on the R&D side in all these areas, which will now start showing light, I think 2027-28 onwards.
Any color you can give us in terms of numbers? April 27, once anode starts to kick through, what's the kind of top line? You already have customers on the side, right? So what's the kind of top line that we expect?
But the first year you're expecting around 40 to 50% capacity utilization. So, you can talk about 1,000 crore kind of a top line. And again, you're looking at EBITDA margins of not less than 30-35% over here. And as we grow into full capacity, this goes up to around 1,800 crores at around 30% margin. And I mean, as we talk, we're already seeing that how do we increase the overall capacity of this particular plant as and when we, start producing the first 20,000 tons.
All right, Riju, thank you so much for coming in and speaking to us. This is indeed insightful, gives us good lens into how you're looking at the demerged entity as well going forward. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Completely timed out on this edition of All About Your Company. That's a goodbye from all of us who put this show together, and thank you so much for watching.